We're live.
All right. Well, we are live now.
Yes.
Great. Hi, welcome. We usually wait a minute or two when we do these webinars because we do it live on Facebook, but it allows us to have it live there, right? Our videos afterwards.
Okay.
For those of you just kind of joining us and jumping on, I'm here with Leland Thompson. It's part of our Pacific Workers Community Foundation event series. This is the first speaker that we have this year. We're going to have another one coming up that we're announcing with somebody from Ortega Consulting coming in June. But Leland, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Pacific Workers.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're really just lucky to have you. We just spent the last hour, Leland and the entire team, doing some coaching with our people. I want to tell you a little bit more about Leland. Welcome my glasses. Anybody in the last year has known me that I have to stick glasses on every time I read now. So Leland spent 20 years working for Fortune 500 companies such as Apple, Gap, Mervyn's, Pottery Barn, some very, very big companies. In that he led teams as an executive consultant within the company. Actually, strategic HR, I think, is a great way to put it, right?
And leading teams in different functional areas. Yeah.
Super. Creating high-profile people within companies. I should say high dynamic teams, and which is part of what we've actually asked him to come in here as well. As a coach and as a consultant, and I know you as a master coach, right?
Yes.
He has led teams at Pete's Coffee, Twitter, places all over the Bay Area, but as well individuals.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of coaching of individuals, because usually the coaching starts with the individual and then goes into their team.
Right.
It's like, okay, I've coached that person. They said, oh, can we expand this to our team?
Right.
Yeah.
So Yulia we're going to keep going, but Yulia, our right hand over here on this stuff, she's going to let us know when people jump on. Do we have anybody that's jumped on?
We got one person on.
Oh, super.
It'd be great if they said hello so we know who they are.
Oh, super. Okay. So really what Leland's work and the things that he does is helping people build tools for life transition, and coaching them through a lot of those transitions. And if there's one thing in a workers' comp law firm is we have people dealing with severe injuries and people dealing with various things, dealing with their jobs. And very often there's going to be transition between one job to another job or the type of work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And have really felt that these types of things can really benefit our clients.
Yeah.
And so you have a program that deals with self-assessment, self-realization, but very much, I think it's a 4-step program that you do. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. The first step in the program is when I start with a client, it's self-awareness. People really understanding, where they are right now at this point in time, how you feel about where you are, assessing those, what are my goals in life? What were my goals in the past? And what are my goals to go forward? Because sometimes when I say the goals in the past, it's more about, is there a goal that I gave up on years ago that I can revisit right now that's very relevant to today for me? Because when people are going through transitions, it's a time to reflect, self-reflection, and really setting new goals in life. Also looking at, we always talk about time management when we're at work, but then when you're in a situation where you're transitioning and going to a new organization, or you just can't work at the current organization that you're at for whatever reason, it becomes this thing about choice management. How am I going to manage my choices going forward?
Sure.
So that whole piece of self-awareness is, can I manage the choices that I'm making going forward and live with those choices?
Sure.
The next thing is self-assessment. Really assessing your skills, where you are, how you do things, what you know and what you don't know. What are your strengths?
And I think a lot of people make the mistake of saying these skills only apply in certain areas when they're not really thinking of how many different things, how many different places their skills can actually apply. They're not looking at their skills broadly enough.
Exactly, and you have to think about your skills from a standpoint of what are my transferable skill sets.
Sure.
Am I a good strong communicator? Do I enjoy working with people? And do I have a strong attention to detail? Because those 3 skills alone can transfer to pretty much any organization.
Any organization can
in the
use
world,
that.
yeah.
Right.
Whether you're working for-profit or not-for-profit organization, those skills are a value add to any team.
You could be working at a restaurant.
Exactly.
As a restaurant manager, an assistant restaurant manager, and go into an office environment because the communication, attention to detail, those are invaluable skills. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you look at the self-assessment, you go through self-awareness and self-assessment. Those are those first 2 notches
Right.
that you need to sort of come to grips with as an individual going through transition, whether it's a life transition or career transition. The next step is building that community. Because as you transition, you're actually stepping away from an established community that you've been a part of.
Sure.
And you want to build a new community. And that community should look like, what are my goals? Does that community fit into where I want to go next?
Sure.
So you build that foundation of those people around you. Because the bottom line is we can't do it ourselves.
Yes.
We need community.
It takes a village.
Exactly. And building that community, it's more about not just what can I get from them, but what can I contribute to that
Sure.
community.
Absolutely.
Because the more you contribute, you grow as an individual, and that community grows. And then you're also thinking about, how is this going to assist in my own personal growth, being a part of this new community and building that new community. And then that final step is building self.
Sure.
Yeah, you build community, you do your self-assessment, you look at, you think about self-awareness, you're building your community. Now, how do I build me?
Yeah.
How do I give myself these new skills, these new
Yeah.
life skills, in order to step into a new organization or run my own organization? Sometimes when you're leaving a company, it's not necessary that you go to another organization.
No, you could start your own.
Exactly.
Right.
Bringing up those dreams that you had and those goals from the past and
Right.
saying, I've always wanted to do X, Y, Z. How do I learn to do that? Where do I need to go? And that building self is really taking advantage of all those resources around you.
Right.
Friends, community centers, the library. Library is huge. A lot of people forget about the library.
They're still around.
Yeah, they're still around. They have internet.
Well, the internet. Well, that's right. I mean, if you don't have internet at home, they have it at the library.
Yes.
Right.
And a lot of times organizations, even though it might only be for a day or so, they
Sure.
do have employee assistance programs.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people decide, well, I'm leaving that company, or I'm not really, want to go back there, so I don't want to use that.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it. You put in you put in a lot of effort into what you've done over the past.
Well, and I think that it's really this type of stuff, and the stuff we're talking about now, is more important than ever when it comes to workers' comp, because 20 years ago, if your vocational rehabilitation or your training that you got through workers' comp, people actually went to community college, they went to trade schools, they learned. I met a guy who was an accountant, I believe, who was a laborer prior to that, got injured, and then got sent, was able to go to community college. That doesn't really happen anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, the fallback, that's why creating your own community is so important,
Yeah,
or
it's
being part
huge.
of a community, whether it's your church, whether it's meetup groups, whether it's, parent networks, for your kids, where, there's so many different places just growing and
even
growing that community.
just getting out of the house.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times when you're going through a transition, and if it's a difficult transition, the first instinct is to sort of hunker down and take care of myself. And you get locked into the house, and
your couch has a nice depression in it.
exactly,
Right.
and you binged on a few, series on TV,
Yeah.
which is fine. You might need to do that just to sort of decompress.
Yeah.
But the next step is to really, in building that community and building self, is to get out of the house.
We'll talk about, there's something that you and I have talked about for years, which is the daily ritual.
Yeah.
And I think if there's one takeaway in anything that you do, is the daily ritual.
Yes, daily rituals is extremely important. It's important from a standpoint of you've walked away from a ritual that you had at the organization that you were working with. You knew you had to get up, get there at 8 o'clock, clock in, do all these things on a daily basis. And now that you're in this midst of transition for whatever reason, that ritual is gone.
Right.
And that lends itself to sometimes you actually diving into a state of, depression, basically, because I no longer have those routines that I had. And it's important to decide, okay, what are my new rituals and new routines? And that can go hand in hand with what are my new goals.
Right.
If my new goals are to, learn more, one of my rituals can be, at 12 o'clock every day, I'm going to pick up a book and read it. Or pick up, a journal on something that I'm interested in.
Even if it's 5 pages.
Exactly. Whatever it is, you can get, I talk about looking for inspiration in whatever you do.
Sure.
You could read 5 pages of something and one line will stand out to you and say, wow, I need to do this. The ritual of just getting up in the morning and taking a morning walk to get out of the house to refresh your mind.
Talk about some of the rituals, because a lot of our clients, they have physical injuries. Can you turn that down? Sorry. They have physical injuries, and so they're dealing with this, and some can't go out and take a walk in the same way. Although I did read about, recently I learned about a swimmer who became a champion swimmer because they couldn't run anymore, and the only rehab that they could actually do was in the pool. And then they became a champion swimmer.
And that's what you have to think about.
Right.
You have to think about, this is what I did previously, but what do I need to do differently now? And what can I do differently now?
Sure.
If you can't get up and go out of the house, is there ability to actually, if you have the internet, get online?
Yeah.
And with a group online and talk. Or invite people over that have supported you in the past and say, hey, I actually have standing calls once a month with someone I used to work with at when I was at Apple, and he's no longer at Apple. He ventured off into his own business, and so we have this standing ritual of once a month we get on the phone and we talk to each other. What's going on today? What are you doing this month? How's things been going for you? To really just keep you going. And so it's a new ritual, that like I have established. So it's a lot of different ways. Picking up a book and deciding, every morning at 8 o'clock, I'm going to read something new.
Right.
Or I'm going to search on the internet and find something that I'm interested in and just do a deep dive into it.
Yeah.
Those are rituals that don't cost you a lot,
right?
Except the choices that you decide to make, that instead of time management, choice management.
And I think one of the other things is, especially if you're injured and you're at home, is eating right.
Yeah, it's huge.
Talk about that a little bit.
Nourishing your body. And I say nourishing your body because there's a difference between just eating and nourishing yourself.
Yeah, one of the things, I'm going to interrupt, I'm sorry, but one of the great things I think I've learned from Leland is he actually schedules in his calendar. He doesn't say it's dinner time, it's lunch time. He actually puts it in his calendar as nourish your body time. So I find that really interesting.
Because when you nourish your body, it has this overall effect. In my coaching practice, I focus in on mind, body, spirit, the whole person.
Right.
So I can feed myself a lot of information, learn new things, start new rituals. I can also do things outside in the community, nourish my spirit, do things bigger than myself. But if I don't nourish my body and with, healthy foods that are going to energize me, that are going to keep this body going, over the long haul. Because when you're in the midst of transition, you don't have it's not an 8-hour job you're doing, but it's a 24-hour job.
Absolutely.
You are on call 24 hours to yourself to figure out what you're going to do next.
And that ritual of eating well is so important. My father in retirement used to say the worst part about retirement was you can't take a day off.
Yeah,
right.
Because you're always working.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's always the monotony, and it's really difficult when you're injured, and we really deal with that a lot here with our clients, and that's a huge part of why we're doing this right now is to give those tools, to give those additional tools. So has anybody else jumped on, Julianne?
Well, Deborah Israel has liked the post.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Deborah. Thank you for stopping by. You'll be able to see this. This will live on our YouTube and our Facebook and different places, which is really great. This technology stuff is amazing. So the mind, body, spirit. And I always, one of the questions I wrote down, which I kind of always ask anybody that we do this type of stuff with, is what are the top 3 things? And breaking down the top 3 tools. I think daily ritual is one of those things, right? What's something else?
The other thing is that when you're thinking about the mind, it's owning where you are and being okay with, this is where I'm at. It's not where I'm going to stay,
right?
But this is where I'm at right now. Because if you can identify where you are in the moment, that gives you the ability to move forward. You can't move forward and set on a route if you don't know where you're starting at.
Sure.
You got to have that starting point. And the other thing is also allowing yourself to mourn the loss of the familiar. When you're in the state of transition, and a leader at Apple actually taught me this, an HR leader, she said, Leland, when you're transitioning teams and people, whether it's to a new job, promotion, whatever it is, or a new policy or process, you have to give them the opportunity to mourn the loss of the familiar, because they're losing what they're familiar with. Whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, it's a loss.
Right. And
give them that time to let it go.
Oh, Brian Malik has jumped on with us.
Great. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Right, and make sure that you ask any questions that you may have of Leland as we talk. I'm sorry, mourning the loss of the familiar.
Yes,
because it's a huge thing.
Yes, and it doesn't have. And I'm saying let people wallow in the past.
Sure, no.
And but it's that give them that opportunity to say, you know what, that was familiar to me, and it was part of my ritual and my routine. Right. Now I no longer do it, right. And it's a loss. And the best thing you do then is to fill it with something new, and that's when you start those new routines, new rituals of going for a walk, reading, going to the community center, joining an organization.
Right.
To take to fill that loss with something else, as opposed to just leaving this sort of this gaping hole.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then the third is spirit, which I think the other 2 things lead straight into.
Exactly. It's, am I doing something that's bigger than me?
Yeah.
And not saying, am I doing something that affects the universe as a whole?
Sure.
It's more of, how am I affecting my community? How am I affecting the
Giving
friends around me? Giving, exactly. Am I doing something that takes me outside of myself and helps me to expand?
I can tell you the people who I have seen achieve the most in life, and on all different levels. Growing up in my house was very much my mother was an artist. My father had all sorts of different businesses and did all sorts of different things, from construction to a travel agency to a pharmacy. And I have a great friend who used to say, I love coming to your house for dinner because you can be sitting beside a truck driver and a CEO, right? And that's just the way it was. There were people coming in and out. It was a little bit of craziness going on all the time. And my parents volunteered. We used to bring in foster kids and things like that would live there while they were going through tough times. And but really understanding at any kind of level that you can give back.
Yes.
At any level, and that's what our foundation is about. That's what these things are about. But at any level, and really, giving is living.
Yes.
I've heard enough people say that over the years,
and
it's very true.
Yeah.
It's not about religion. This is just about humanity.
Yeah, and it's filling your spirit.
Right.
And when you're filled with things and you have all these things that you can do and give, then you allow that other people to be able to do that. And it just becomes a cycle.
It opens it up, right?
Yes.
When you're finally open to something, it comes towards. Right?
Exactly. And I always tell people, don't brace for change. Because when you brace, you get very rigid and you break.
Right.
It's like, be flexible and roll with it. And it could be scary. Change is scary. Again, because we're separating ourselves from what's familiar to us.
Yeah.
But using that to propel you to move forward, and taking that, that fear that sits right here in your gut, and just saying to yourself,
letting it go.
Yeah, let it go,
right.
And just go forward. And you're going to make mistakes.
And it's funny because it's when I sit here and just kind of listen to this, and we talk about this, and you and I have talked about this type of stuff before. It sounds very touchy-feely, Berkeley, it's in Northern California, like you wouldn't see this in Chicago. But the truth is you're a high-powered exec that has been doing this stuff for 20 years.
Exactly.
I have been in the courtroom battling with the best of them for 20 some years. I mean, but this is sort of the ground part, the grounding part of this.
And you think about it, all the organizations that I've worked with in the past and the individuals that I consult with now, they all practice this holistic philosophy of I'm the whole person.
Right.
And when you think about high-performing teams or organizations or individuals, they bring their whole self to the table. It's not part of me is at work and part of me is at home. The entire of me, all of me is at work or all of me is at home at this point in time. And that assists you when you're transitioning, you have to be all in.
Yeah.
It's not a halfway thing. And it's tough. You're going to have, there's tough roads in a transition because there's that unknown. Where am I going to land? What's going to happen to me? But if you're establishing those rituals for yourself and you're thinking about it from a holistic standpoint, that I'm all in this, then you can battle through those tough times.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it really is, and that leads into the next thing, which is if you don't know where you're going, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it will take this self-assessment, but it is about sitting down and doing the hard work of saying, what are my various paths forward?
Yes.
And actually creating the path and then thinking about the actions that you need to take to actually get there. If you're somebody who used to drive a truck,
Mm-hmm.
or you're a healthcare worker and you can't stand on your feet all day anymore, and taking that self-assessment about those tools that you're good at. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in my previous incarnation as a lawyer for 20-some years,
Mm-hmm.
besides doing all the injury cases for the athletes, et cetera, I traveled over 225 days a year.
Wow.
In courtrooms all over the country and high-powered meetings and et cetera, doing all this type of stuff. I couldn't do it anymore. My back was destroyed, right? My health was not good. I had to look at, okay, what else am I going to be good at? And it's funny, through all that, we've created Pacific Workers, which has been the best thing that I've ever done, right?
And that's because you left yourself open.
Absolutely, but I took an assessment of the skills that I was actually good at. And the transition took a long time for us to convert. I mean, we were a company that had 200-something athlete clients, right? So,
and if it's worth it for you, that transition is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And it's part of that is really making that solid decision of this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And getting up every day and doing at least one thing to get you there.
Besides coffee?
Exactly. It's doing that one, pick up that phone, make that one phone call, calling that friend, sending that email, whatever it takes, even if it's just one thing, do that one thing.
But I want to address something you said to our team, which I think there was all a little bit of a gasp. What time do you wake up every day?
4:30, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, usually 4:30.
Yeah.
But that's a part of my ritual.
Right.
And even if I had one morning last week where I decided got up and thought, oh, I'm not going for my run. I don't feel like running.
Right.
But then, I sat there and thought, you know what, Leland, get up and go. And
I thought you were going to say he just went back to sleep, because I certainly do that quite often. I did it this morning, actually. But I think that if there's one thing that I found in all people who are successful, especially in making transitions, because it becomes their foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And that foundation allows them change without changing too much.
Yes.
Right? So now they're working at, one company versus a different company, or they may have a very different job. They may have been a police officer who's on a beat,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're a police officer who's in investigations and they're mostly at a desk. But it's okay because their foundation is there.
Exactly. And they did another thing when you just mentioned, like, the police officer is no longer on the beat, but they're at the desk. They took those transferable skills
Exactly.
and applied them somewhere else.
That's right.
That's right.
Right.
So it's that assessment piece is huge.
It is huge.
And it should be, you want to know what you don't do well, but you really want to emphasize, what do I do well?
Yeah.
What am I good at? When I was at my last job, and this is asking yourself, when I was at my last job, what did I truly dive into? What did I do well? What was effortless for me?
Yeah.
Because you always have those things that you do extremely well and those things that you go, I just got to do it.
Right.
It's part of the job. And pulling all those little gems out.
Yeah.
And as you're assessing and taking, a self-assessment and looking at your skills, you can decide, well, these are all, this is my bucket of transferable skills.
Yeah, and it's not what people think.
Right.
Right? It's actually not what people think. It generally they are, because it's a higher level skill. It's
Yes.
the communication skills. It's the interacting with people. It's just keeping on track and organizational things, or reflecting in a good way.
Yes.
I think people who are reflective make the best executives.
Exactly. That's one of the things when I'm coaching a leader, I talk about patience and persistence all the time, but the ability to reflect is huge.
Yeah.
When you can sit down at the end of the day and reflect on the things that I did step by step throughout the day, what do I want to do differently tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
How did that conversation go with that individual, with that, that prospective employer, because I'm trying to transfer jobs, and just step back and be honest with yourself. Did I come across as, put my best foot forward, or can I do differently next time?
Right.
But that ability to reflect, and not to reflect to bring yourself down, but reflecting to bring yourself up and to allow yourself to say, you know what, that was a good conversation I had. I want to repeat that conversation again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that daily reflection, if you look back at anything else, is creating a daily reflection, a daily routine, living a life of turn your expectations into appreciation. Because even when things aren't good, when they're the worst, there are things you can appreciate.
You can appreciate the fact that you have the ability to reflect.
That's right.
I was telling the group earlier, my alarm, one of my alarms, it goes off at 8:30 because 9 o'clock is my reflection time at night.
Right.
It goes off and it's at 8:30. In 30 minutes you have to reflect, and I start thinking about my day, how it went. How did I feel good about it? Do I want to just call it a day and let it go? And what do I expect for the next day?
When do you set your to-do list? Do you set it the night before? You set it the morning of?
I have a big to-do list.
Sure. The master to-do, I called it.
I look at the night before during my reflection, and this is what as I'm journaling, because I journal. I have my work journal and my personal journal, and I write down things in my work journal. I need to take care of this tomorrow and this tomorrow. I want to contact this person, see how they're doing. My personal journal, I want to run an extra mile tomorrow, or the run today just didn't feel good, or whatever that is.
Right.
But I just reflect on it in order, and that's how I'm creating my list for the next day, because that reflection says it helps me sort of let go of what happened and focus in on what I want to do next.
Right.
And that's huge. I don't think I've had a client in the last 5 years that I didn't tell you need to start a journal. And
journaling is huge. I know there's a great coach. He's out of Australia that I met a few years ago, and he does these kind of live events and things like that. And 90% of the time, this is what he's talking about. And there are journals out there these days. There's one called the Self Journal, I think, or the Best Self Company, which has a great journal. And you can buy it sort of pre-journaled a little bit.
Oh, wow.
That guides you into what am I appreciative today?
Yeah.
What are the things I accomplished today? What are the things I need to accomplish tomorrow? That type of thing.
If people follow me on social media, they'll see, a lot of times I'll start a quote with, it's a good day to have a good day.
Right.
Because the cover of my journal, that's what it says. My personal journal, it says it's a good day to have a good day. Yeah.
Do we have any questions coming in?
We have no questions coming in, but Katab McIntosh has just liked our post.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. So we're going to start wrapping it up a little bit if there aren't any questions.
I have one question. If
Okay,
we're not
sure.
What do you think of bullet journaling? That's kind of like a big trend in journaling right now. Are you aware of it? Do you think it works, or do you think it simplifies it a little bit too much?
It simplifies it, but I look at it, that's a start. Bullet journaling is a start. Because the true, I feel like to get the true meaning out of a journal, or the benefit of a journal, is that complete writing out your thoughts. Sometimes when people get into the bullet journal, they'll actually be on the computer and typing in and just, listing things. And I encourage teams and individuals to handwrite.
Yeah.
Because when you handwrite,
it's everything. It comes
Exactly.
through. There's actually there's actually an emotional change.
Exactly, and it sits in your short-term and long-term memory much faster and longer.
Wow.
Because you type as fast as you think.
That's right.
And it goes in and comes out.
Right.
But when you journal and you have time to sit down and you're reflecting on what you did and you have to put some thought into it, it means a little bit more. It's kind of like getting a handwritten note, which we normally don't get anymore.
And now you can even send handwritten notes through an app that handwrites it for you. Right.
Tusk Miller says great information for transformation.
Thank you, Tusk. Yeah.
Thank you.
He's a regular, Tusk regularly joins us
On
our live feeds. That's wonderful. So just to kind of recap, we're really thinking about the daily ritual, journaling, really a great self-assessment of your skills, which don't necessarily have anything to do with any particular industry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? When you think about a healthcare worker, what I think about the number one skill of a healthcare worker is caring.
Yes.
Right? That is not, just about healthcare workers.
Yeah.
You can care in a restaurant company, right?
Yeah.
So you can care in a restaurant company.
The greatest leaders that I've worked with are people who have this, they care about the state of their team.
The team.
And the individuals on the team.
Absolutely.
So those transferable skills are just huge. And I encourage people, don't leave any stone unturned.
Yeah.
I think back to when I was in middle school. What did I learn in middle school that applies to what I do now? All those skills that you've gathered in your life can come to play when you're in the midst of making a life transition.
And in that daily ritual, try to do something physical.
Yes.
And if you can't walk, jump in a pool. Or, if you can't jump in a pool, move your arms. If
Yes.
you can't move your arms, move your legs. Whatever it is, motion creates emotion.
Exactly.
And just getting moving.
I think we both learned that from Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah, I think we did. we both did.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it helps.
Yes.
It really, really helps. The days, if I tracked how I felt, the days I go to the gym or the days I do something physical, even if it's just a walk,
Yeah.
right? Because I have very bad knees and I have a very bad back, which is why I couldn't travel anymore. And you see me these days, I've finally gotten through it after 20 years of battling it. 20 years.
Emotion. Yeah.
And the emotion and the roller coaster, and when it goes bad, because it'll flare up a couple times a year. And during those times, I get so incredibly depressed because I can't do any of the things I would like to do.
Yeah. When I get bogged down and I feel like I'm not making headway with what I'm working on or a project,
Right.
motion, I get up and take a quick walk. 5 minutes, whatever it is to get my body moving. Because once my body starts moving, my brain starts to
Absolutely. It's
thinking
the
through
endorphins.
things.
It's
Exactly.
everything.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I'll tell one quick story before we continue the wrap up, but I had a very good friend from law school and her husband was a TV writer and he had done sort of very well out of the gate and then he lost his job. And I was over at their house and I remember seeing his daily to-do list. And it really consisted of one thing, do 10 push-ups.
Wow.
That was the only thing that was on there. And I thought, oh God, poor guy. But it really, I've never sort of forgotten that, right? And it was just his reminder to do something.
Yeah.
Because an unemployed TV writer, I mean, those are the guys you see at Starbucks, right? Like hoping they can get enough to, scratch enough coin together to actually buy a Starbucks, right? And he actually went on to a great career,
Wow.
right? An amazing career, and has written for a ton of different shows. But I'll never forget seeing his to-do list started with do 10 push-ups. Right?
He created a ritual for himself.
That was it. That was the
Yeah.
ritual, right?
Exactly.
So creating those rituals and turning expectation to appreciation. Creating a path, that writing things down, thinking about the different paths that you can go down. So
And patience and persistence.
patience.
Yes. Patient with the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leland, I want to thank you for coming by.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, it's really great. If you want more information, we'll post it. Leland Thompson Consulting,
Yes, Leland Thompson Consulting.
based in Oakland, does coaching for interviews, self-assessment, thinking about those transition times. You can go talk to him, and you're based in Oakland.
Based
He's
in
an
Oakland.
Oakland
Yeah.
native, born and raised.
Born and raised in Oakland. Yes.
All right. It's such a pleasure. We've been talking about this for a year. It's finally happened.
Finally here, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon.